Welcome. I'm Judy Bratt, CEO of Summit Insight and the host of this government contracting webinar series. I'm so glad you're here. My moderator is Leah Edwards, founder of Transcendent Marketing. She'll be helping us stay connected throughout, and I'll introduce our speaker and our co-star in just a moment. A special welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. If this is your first webinar with us, drop a number 1 in the chat, and a special welcome to you. Here's who Summit Insight is and why I invited you to join us. Summit Insight is a professional services firm. For you, and I hope for us, sales and marketing are acts of service, which is why we offer this webinar to you with our compliments. You can find out whether you're fit to work with us and get great free resources in the resource slides at the end of this webinar or in the follow-up email that you're going to get within about 48 hours of the wrap. If you're watching this recorded, you'll be able to get links as well. You will get the recording of this webinar because you registered or are listening, so thank you. About this webinar series, this is the 4th of 4 parts that we've delivered in this series. The others include marketing tools that open doors for federal sales, how to disrupt the incumbent, to bid or not to bid, and what to do next. If you haven't seen those and you'd like to, you can get all of those recordings on our website and a whole lot more as well. Now, get out your notebook. I'm going to ask for your ahas and takeaways. What action are you going to take and by when as we wrap up? That's a valuable way for each of us to remind the others of, oh yeah, that was a good idea. It's one of our advanced learning techniques that we bake into all of our programs. So how to participate? 4 ways. First, use the chat or the Q&A panels on your control panel. Raise a hand in the control box, respond to the survey at the end, or just book a call. We'd love to follow up one-on-one, and we have some linger time at the end of the hour. So if you can hang out, we'll stop the recording. You can ask your questions and not have them blatted out all over the internet. So here's what's up for today. We're going to cover the top myths and debunk with the stark realities of what federal contract success takes. We'll share what nobody tells you about incumbents, the risks of thinking you're the winner, even if you are the incumbent, what it means to do your homework and why that's so challenging. And we'll wrap up with how winners invest for success. With that, it is my pleasure and my joy to introduce Eileen Kent, the person that industry has dubbed the Federal Sales Sherpa. Eileen has taught over 10,000 people, including federal employees and contracting officers, the ins and the outs of interactions and relationship building and successful relationships between government and industry. She's supported hundreds of our clients and been part of the reason why they have generated over $300 million in federal contract success. With that, Eileen, take it away and let's get this conversation started.
Thank you so much, Judy. It is such a thrill to be here with you today. It's an absolute honor, and I can't wait to talk about some really tough things. But I just want to kind of throw out there what some of our goals are. I have a little saying. I like to educate the new, motivate the frustrated, and validate the experience. There's a few of you that are watching this right now who's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt probably 500 times. You probably can even run circles around some of the things that we say or have tons of examples yourself, and we invite you to provide some feedback today. We'd love to have that conversation. But the idea here is to really kind of change your mindset about this marketplace because there's so much information out there. It's really incredible the different opinions that are out there when it comes to doing business with the federal government. But where Judy and I are, because we've been doing this so long, is we want to save you time, we want to save you money, and we want to save you heartbreak. We want to give you back your weekends and your evenings, and we want you to get strategic and smart about this business. So we want to be able to help your business go. But we need to kind of brace ourselves because the things we've been told out there in the marketplace are a lot of promises. And it's not really as smooth sailing winning federal contracts as other people make it sound. So I just want you to be clear that if you're going to different social media sites and you're hearing all kinds of phrases like, they're giving everything away to women-owned businesses, they're giving all kinds of business to women-owned, that's their focus, or they're doing a lot more with minority-owned businesses or service-disabled vets. Well, we need to take some of that information with a grain of salt and also understand where the source of this information is coming from. There's people out there that want to sell you their services to get you registered on SAM, which by the way is a free service that the Apex accelerators can give you. So some people are trying to get new people into the business just because they want to be able to, do a little bit of work with them on the front end. But we want to be really honest with you and say, this isn't as easy as it sounds. And even the federal government makes some claims that this is easy. In fact, Judy, I just recently saw a post that the VA posted, their small business office, and they said, federal sales is as easy as 1, 2, 3. And what they said was, number 1, register at SAM. Number 2, look for opportunities on SAM. Number 3, write bids on SAM. And I was laughing out loud because so many of the VA contracts, I can tell you with experience, many of the VA contracts, a lot of them are with primes that they've been working with for years and years and years, depending on your products and your services. So it isn't just as easy as writing bids on SAM, because there's a lot of that low-hanging fruit that they're saying is available have been picked by primes already. This business takes time. Also, this business is what I call the big leagues. A lot of people think this is a great place to start your business. And one of the things that we like to say is, it makes a lot of sense to get some past performance with current commercial companies so you can prove your pricing, you can prove your capabilities. You're really good, because they're not picking beginners, they're picking elite companies that can handle larger orders. So it's not quite as easy as everybody says. So kind of just hold your heart for this next hour, because we're talking about some realities in this industry, and better we tell you now than you experience it over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 years and you're like, why didn't anybody tell me this in the beginning? Don't we all want to know this stuff in the beginning? So, and like I said, some of you might already have been doing this for a while. So yeah, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. I missed that picture of that kid. Let me go back. That's such a good picture. Let me go back to that one. Now, we're going to talk about some realities. First of all, here's some research that actually Judy did for us. She tells us that from 2016 to 2022, the DoD lost 43% of its small suppliers.
And DoD is concerned. If you think they kind of weren't noticing, the security of the supply chain is a really big deal. And it's why the Apex accelerators are moving into high gear, wanting to help people be more successful. The Center for Strategic and International Studies, you can Google and see that somebody who starts in the federal market, 5 years later, only 20% of people who start are still there. So if you've been in the federal market more than 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and you're still at it, congratulations. You're the brave and the bold. And we want
here
more success sooner.
Absolutely. These are the realities. So when other people are saying, come on in, the water's fine, it's great, I won $1 million contract overnight.
Well, and if you haven't, it's sort of like people's social media lives are not their real lives. I love LinkedIn, and people's success on LinkedIn is not the whole story. You go to these big events in the room with 800 people, and the people with the sparkly dress or the pretty suit on the nice stage, and they talk about the big wins. There's this little line, listen for the little line, says, oh, and we follow it up for 5 years. Listen to that, because that is where the reality is. There's
Yeah,
no such thing as
that's
overnight success in GovCon. None.
exactly. So let's start with the 7 truths with truth number 1. I don't know if you've heard this one, but I've heard plenty of people put out there, come to the federal arena because you can win contracts in days. Let me tell you, it's actually a year or two, and almost every expert in the industry has been saying that to their customers for years and years and years, because the reality, it takes a year or two. So sure, contracts in days, 365 to 730 days. Now, let's just say you're a vendor, I don't know, in Florida in the middle of a hurricane, and you still have ice in your store, and FEMA comes in and they need ice. Yeah, you might win a contract in days just because you happen to be at the right place at the right time with the right things that they need. So sometimes we get lucky, but the reality is it takes quite a while for a vendor to develop the acumen and the background and the past performance and the capabilities and the certifications and the contract vehicles to be able to actually close a deal. I can tell you from my own personal experience, I was sent on the Lewis and Clark expedition to settle the feds. I was asked right after 9/11 to travel to LA, San Francisco, San Diego, Dallas, Atlanta, DC, Chicago, and back around again, 7 out of 8 weeks, back around again, back around again, back around. For a year, I was walking the halls of federal buildings because in those territories, that's where our company had locations that actually were able to serve those local agencies. Well, it took me a year, but I actually delivered and set up the very first offices of Homeland Security. But believe me, it took calling all those locations out in the marketplace in other cities to get someone to introduce me into someone into DC, who then introduced me to somebody else at another department who moved me up to the headquarters. So it was a myriad of conversations and travel. It takes a long time. And even if you have the right agencies to go after, rather than just going out there randomly and calling, it's going to take a year possibly to unseat an incumbent. It's like getting them to divorce another vendor in order for them to do business with you. You might have to wait a year. So every business is different. Services, obviously, it takes a little longer to take over a contract from an incumbent or to be able to be a second, in line for it, or a teaming partner to that incumbent. But products, you might be able to sell a little bit quicker. They can throw it on a credit card. So every business is a little bit different. But anybody who says to you, I guarantee I'm going to close you a deal in 30 days, run. I can tell you there have been consultants out there that have said stuff like that, and they had friends inside the agencies that would buy $5 worth of services from you, and now you're locked into that company for $5,000 a month or whatever to do consulting with them to sell for you, and they just had a buddy on the inside that can make a little teeny purchase. So there's been some little wonky things. Nobody can guarantee business with the feds. No one. Even if you have all the right things they want, the right contract vehicles, the right set asides, no one can guarantee whether the government is going to say yes or no to your bid. And even if you win the bid, there's no guarantees that you're still going to get the actual work. So just understand, anybody who throws out the I have a guarantee, take a moment and go, especially when they say, we'll win you contracts in days. Brace yourself. This stuff takes time. Now, a lot of people say to me, okay, Eileen, well then how much time does this take? Well, as I told you, it takes a year or two to actually win a contract, but you have to start off by doing outreach. You have to make calls. You have to write emails. You have to connect with people on LinkedIn. You've got to meet them at networking events. You've got to actually lean into this marketplace. And you have to have someone dedicated to making calls, sending emails, not blasts, but specific calls to the right people with the right message. And also, if they're not the right person, they're going to point you to the right person, so it might make make 2, 3, 4, 5 calls, even to just get to the right decision maker. Or one person will say, I'm not the decision maker, and you talk to 5 other people and you end up getting back to that original person and you're like, you are the one. Yeah, I know. So there is a little bit of, chasing people down and tracking people down. But let me give you a number that I've experienced personally when I've had to make calls. If someone hired me for, let's say, 50, 60 hours a month to actually go and make calls for them and try to get them, the first step is to get appointments, capabilities, briefings, and have conversations with people. So a solid 50 to 60 hours of sales activities should result in anywhere between 15 to 20 really good appointments, or at least half an hour conversations. So it should end up with some bookings. Now, if you decide, oh, I'm only going to make my calls 2 hours a week. Well, if that's 50 to 60 hours and it's 2 hours a week, then you're probably only doing your follow-ups like once every month to that same person. So they have to remember who you are because you're, spreading out your calls. So it might take 6 months to get 15 to 20 good appointments. Now, if you're doing 10 hours a week, it could take about 6 weeks. So like I said, I've found that really somebody focus on sales, going after this, investing, especially that first month going after it, 50 to 60 hours of phone calls, emails, conversations, touching base, introducing yourself, ask to be pointed in the right direction, everything a salesperson does to go and capture and start to build relationships. And Judy adds a really interesting little factoid here. From her research and experience, 28 to 32 touches from contact to contract. What do we mean by touch?
And that comes from actually the experience that Leah Edwards and her team have doing calls for companies in the government contracting space. And she has call agents, professional call agents who do nothing but smile and dial. You just said, it's getting tougher. This is the news from the field from a top ranked call agent company. So be with that, realize that this is reality, and that's what we're sharing with you today. This is what to expect. And phone calls are important. People may say, oh, nobody answers the phone anymore. Everybody texts. Just by making the effort, being vulnerable. How does it feel to make call after call after call and have nobody pick up? Does it feel hard? Yeah, it can. That's why people don't do it. It means that if you make that commitment and you keep showing up, one of the things people are most afraid of is, oh, are they going to think I'm bothering them? It may take you 4 or 5 voicemails before they even know you're alive, before they even remember, oh, who was that again? So the thing we're most afraid of, you're making it up in your brain. If you keep showing up, so many companies give up after 2 or 3 or 4 phone calls. The business comes to the people who go the distance. And that means by choosing and focusing narrowly and going deep, you significantly increase your odds of success rather than going a mile wide and inch deep and nobody knows you're alive. Focus is your friend. Eileen, back to you.
Great, Judy. And she calls them touches. I call them impressions. So if you're leaving a voicemail, what kind of a voicemail are you leaving? Hi, I called you last week and you didn't call me back. No one's going to call you back with an impression like that. But hey, here's Eileen from Summit Insight. Just touching base again. I promised you last week that I would call you today if I didn't hear from you. So here I am. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our best values. 1, 2, 3 best values. And listen, I know you're real busy, but if you can let me know whether or not you're the right person, that would really help me out. If I don't hear from you by next Monday, I will call you on Tuesday. Thank you so much, Eileen Kent, Summit Insight. That's an impression. Yeah. It sounds friendly. You're a friendly bugaboo. So if you're thinking you're bugging them, always picture yourself of the bug that people go, oh, butterfly, I love butterflies. Don't be a buzzy old bee, be something that's delightful to hear from. And even if they don't pick up and get your message and pick up and talk to you right away, make your voicemail message a pleasure to listen to. They love friendly people. Most vendors get really they sound like Eeyore, or I'm dating myself here. They sound, here I am again. And
Think about it, because if I took a poll here, how many people, stick up your hand in the chat. How many people love leaving voicemail? Let's see, if you love leaving voicemail. Now, all right, so I'm going to use my favorite federal contracting tool. You ready? I'm now going to give you 30 seconds of uninterrupted attention right inside somebody's brain. You want that? That's what voicemail is. So when you leave that message, leave it with enough energy and enthusiasm and excitement, as though you actually had them on the line, because in reality you do. It's just not in real time. Those 30 seconds, make it cheerful. Make that call at the time of the day when you have the energy and you genuinely care about that connection. And if you remembered, what was it, that thing that Eileen said again? Everything you would want to leave in a great voicemail. Get the recording, play it back, write it down. That's gold right there. That alone is worth the time that you spent to log on to this session. It's priceless. All right. But remember that, write it down. I mean, we speak about 110 to 120 words a minute. That means 50, 60 words. That's all you need. Write it down, rehearse it, read it. They can't tell you're reading it over the phone, but that means your time is well used. It's concise. You know what you're saying. And then you can change it up and do 2 or 3 variations. Suddenly you've got lots of slightly different voicemails that you can deliver precisely, concisely, with energy and enthusiasm. It makes it a lot easier to move on to the next call. Eileen, back to you.
Exactly right. And a way to tighten up those, 28 to 32 impressions is to always, when you leave a voicemail, tell them when you're going to call them back if you haven't heard from them by date, and I'll call you back. Do that 2 or 3 times, and you know what? They're going to call you back because they know you're not going away, because you do what you say you're going to do, which is a really good first impression as a vendor. I say what I'm going to do, and I do it. And then I'm going to prove to you again. I say what I'm going to do, and I do it. So you can even say, I'm leaving you a voicemail. It's really great to talk to you. In the meantime, I'm going to send you an email that says the same thing. So if email's, a better way for you to communicate with me, please respond to me and let me know if you're the right person. And if you're not, can you please let me know who it is? Give them an activity to do. Ask them a question. And usually by asking a question, you will get a response a little bit faster than just leaving a commercially voicemail. So, but it's going to take these activities to get them to remember who you are. And they're not just going to remember the business. They're going to remember the person first, then the business. So it's always Eileen at Summit Insight, Eileen at fill in the blank your company. And then after a while, they'll pick up, hi, Eileen from Summit. And I'll go, oh, you picked up. The other thing too is if they actually pick up, celebrate that. Because they'll be like, okay, I'm picking up. And you go, hey, you picked up. Yeah. You go, listen, just the fact that you picked up, I just appreciate it. I may be calling the wrong number. You might not be the right person, but thank you so much for just picking up for me today. So that already changes the tone of the conversation as well before you go into, whatever you want to say in your call. But this takes diligence, patience, persistence, perseverance. So in order to get appointments, we're not even talking about uncovering opportunities and making it happen. So this is a truth. And I can tell you this because this is my personal experience. And Judy's team has told you, for them, 28 to 32 impressions, touches to actually from contact to contract in their experience. All right. Truth number 3. I want you to have this one. Judy and I have been doing data analysis for our clients for
10 years.
Well, I've been doing it.
We've been doing it together for 10, and I've been doing it for 35.
Yeah. So we've been looking at this data for our clients, like literally monthly, all kinds of different clients, from medical supplies, services, IT, construction facilities, energy, aerospace, manufacturing, you name it. And I got to tell you, when we do data dips, we're able to see the number of bids that they're receiving for every single transaction. And the majority of these transactions are 1 to 3 bids received. Just let that sink in for just a second. Now, a lot of people say, well, then I should be responding to bids. No. I want you to hear this from the other side. 1 to 3 bids are received because they're either using a sole source by saying this company is unique, or they're offering us something emergency basis, right? Or they're using a contract vehicle like a GSA schedule or a GWAC or an IDIQ or a BPA that requires 1 to 3 bids, and that's it. And you never see it on SAM. It's going through a contract vehicle. They're doing something called simplified acquisition, which up to $250,000, they can say to 3 small businesses, give me a quote, you 3 companies, and they can move forward with their company of choice. So 3 bids or less for simplified acquisitions. But the reality is, these are people that they already know, trust, and love, and they invited for those companies to write those bids. So once again, just hold that thought for a moment. I thought everything was on SAM. No, most of the stuff that's really happening never sees the light of day on System for Award Management. It's through sole sources, contract vehicles, simplified acquisitions, and they're calling the people they know, trust, and love, and they're getting 1 to 3 bids, and that's within the rules. So it's totally legal. So just have that truth for a second. Whew. 1 to 3 bids received for most tasks awarded. Bids are written, bids are written with a winner in mind. So let me ask you, if you were a government employee with $1 million project that you were going to get reviewed on the results of that project, okay? This project, if you do a good job, you might get promoted to another position. Or maybe if you don't do well managing this project, you'll never get promoted again. So first of all, you need to understand that when government employees bring in a vendor to do work that supports their mission, their retirement and their job is on the line every time they choose a vendor. Just have that. They're betting their retirement on you, because if you do a good job, they could get promoted. If you don't do a good job and they're managing it, they're stuck in that job for the next 35 years. So they're very risk averse. Just have that for a second. Just be in their shoes. They're not risk averse when it comes to saving lives. They're going to run towards a disaster or an emergency and save people's lives. But goodness gracious, if anybody's going to put a black mark on my personnel file, I'd rather die. It's that visceral. It's that important to them. So they're going to pick vendors they know, trust, and love will do a really good job and make them look good. So just have that for a second. So when you see a bid, here's what I want you to do. Go straight to the past performance. And I want you to really look at the criteria that they're asking for. What did they say? You must have past performance with the federal government, with this agency, with this location. The vendor we choose must know our processes and procedures. If they have verbiage like that in the past performance and you've never worked with that agency before, and let's say they put a weight on it of like 50%, you don't have a prayer. Why are you bidding this? Or go find the incumbent, buddy up with them, who has that, has that past performance, and show them your extra things that you're able to bring to the table with them. There might be an opportunity to work together. But when you're looking at a bid online that you're considering, look at that past performance, because there are tells. You know what I'm talking about? Tells like in poker. So here's a tell in poker. Do I have a good hand or not? I have a good hand, right? That's my tell.
And Eileen, the tip that I want to give those of you who are here is this. If you'll see that I started this call wearing corrective eyewear. All right. So those of you who wear glasses or contacts, you've had this experience where you're sitting in the optometrist's office and they put this big thing in front of your face and they flip the lenses. Better A, flip, or B. Better A, flip, or B. Better A, flip, or you're, I can see. That's the experience that you have in the federal arena when you stop looking at this whole flow of bid notices, thousands of bid notices that run into your inbox from whatever expensive database you have, or somebody who's getting notices for you, or you're logging into SAM. Instead of having your eyes crossed when you're asking the question, what can I bid? Flip the lens for clarity and joy and focus by asking the question, who is my buyer? So that notice that you see on SAM that looks perfect for what you do, set aside for a company like yours. If there's less than 30 days to go and you don't know the buyer and you don't know the budget and you don't know the incumbent and you don't know the history, your odds of winning are in the single digits. Instead, scroll down to the bottom, look for the point of contact, start there and say, all right, who else do I know in that shop? How else can I get to know this person for the next time? Because very few of you are selling aircraft carriers, which is to say there's the thing that your federal buyer is buying, they're probably buying more of that another time. Their purchasing activities are leaving a trail that helps you get to know them. And so they're going to be buying more of what you do another time. Line yourself up for that next time. That one bid notice that you saw, not the end of the world. It comes, it goes. There's going to be another one. Line yourself up and give yourself some more lead time. Eileen, back to you.
Perfect. And some other tells just to keep an eye out for when you're looking at a bid that makes it so obvious, at least to me, in that it's going to an incumbent, is I go straight to the evaluation criteria, the best values. If they're making a best value determination over price, they're probably going to be talking about, they're looking for someone who has experience at that location, or the best value might be their, if it's construction, their bonding level, it might be their safety level. Other things is go into the technical and see who they're asking for in the key personnel and what are their levels. So for example, they might have a key personnel description of these people must have PhDs, 20 plus years experience, working with this agency in the past, knowing our ways we do business. You should be asking yourself, well, I have people that meet most of those, but who actually are the people that they're looking for? Because they have someone in mind for that job. So understand, and our hope in the future is that bids are going to be written with you in mind because you got in there early enough to shape the scope of work and the opportunity. So also do your homework and take a look at, okay, I'm seeing an opportunity here. There's contract data that you can look at where they've published who's done this work in the past with that agency. So you can kind of predict who the incumbents are as well. So, okay, here's the next truth, which Judy alluded to earlier in the training, that, when you think you're the winner and you could still lose, understand that the federal government, if it's a very important project, you better believe they're telling you, yeah, you're the one, and they're courting you and you're courting them and everything's going great. Well, they're having that conversation with at least 2 others, guaranteed. Why? Because if you make a mistake on your proposal and they can't award it to you, can you imagine them? They have all these other blind bidders that don't know what they're doing. They're going to hedge their bets with 3, especially with anything that's a big deal on a big task. They're talking to at least 3 vendors to make sure that they're going to get at least 3 solid bidders that they can compare, and everybody else that sends stuff up, they're file fillers, that helps out. Oh, great, we got 10 responses. That looks great in our file that we got 10 responses, but the 3 top companies are these 3 that, we've been talking to, and the other ones don't know that the other ones were contenders. So whenever someone says, I have an 80% chance of winning this deal, I have a P-win chance of, no, you don't. The only reason you'd have an 80% chance or higher of winning an opportunity is if they actually sole source that contract directly to you with no competition. Otherwise, if you have a really good opportunity, understand they probably got 2 other vendors going. So if you already are positioning yourself going, okay, they've talked to us through, we've shaped this a bit, assume the other 2 are showing up, so you write an even stronger bid, just assuming those 2 others are showing up, to the table. So don't be surprised if you were told you were the winner and you lost, because really you had a 30% chance if you were told you were the winner, because they're hedging their bets for 3 just to cover their bases. Okay, truth number 5. Oh, yeah, I'm still on truth number 5. So try to figure out who those other vendors are. That's why it's really good to do a lot of analysis and a lot of data analysis from the contract data that's available to us to see who they've been working with in the past. Who are the usual suspects that you're up against? Okay, truth number 6. This is one that even the feds say. The SBA says this all the time, and it just makes my head explode. Everybody says, the federal government is the largest customer in the world. They're worth, trillions of dollars, billions and billions and billions. Well, here's the reality. Yes, there is one type of check that you get from the U.S. Treasury when you get paid, right? The U.S. government. But when you're out there talking to people, you're talking, there are millions of people that the federal government hires, and they're working at thousands of locations, working for hundreds of agencies in dozens of departments. So you need to know that it's almost like calling on a marketplace of small businesses. You might go in and find out in the data, if you did any data analysis, okay, this is my focus agency, and gee, they're not even in DC. They're over here in New Jersey, and they're making decisions here. How many people work there? Oh, there's like 100 people that work here, and they like certain contract vehicles, and that's your focus, not that entire agency across the government. There might be just one office, and there's dynamics in that office and preferred vendors that they're using in that office. So it's almost like selling to a small business. And it is like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes to find the people that buy what you sell. You might have something very, very unusual that you sell, and we got to go in there and find them. I mean, Judy and I have done some oddball data dips for companies, certain types of environmental testing. I've done companies that do DNA testing. I've helped companies that have had medical supplies that are down to the $3,000 a piece, but they got to sell hospital by hospital by hospital to sell that thing. So it could be something small, it could be something big, but you still have to understand that these are people that are working in offices and hospitals and bases that have office politics and relationships amongst each other and other vendors are working with. So it's like calling on a small business. So prepare yourself. It's not just one gigantic customer. I remember the first time I was selling for a roofing company that wanted to go after a bunch of American Recovery and Reinvestment Act money. And they asked me to build them an action plan, which I did. And it was based on calling on public building services all over the country in their different regional offices. But I went to DC, and they also hired a really top-notch consultant that they were convinced, this company, that because we're national and we have 48 locations, that we're going to hire this lobbyist to go talk to the administrator of public building services. They're going to give us one contract, and we're going to be the only vendor to do every rooftop in the country during this time. And I was just like, that's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. Guess what happened? So they took their expert, went in, and the guy at the top said, get out of here. It's going to be decided upon on a local level. So we had to go literally region by region, service center by service center, building by building to introduce our services out in the field.
But when you did that, how much did you eventually win?
$65 million in 18 months.
Ba-ding. Pay attention to that, folks.
So it takes this kind of scratching and clawing and getting out there and being in the field, but you also have to think about where your agencies are located, where their people are located. Some of them might have their email address and their address at a particular base or agency, but they might be working out of their home still or commuting back and forth. So getting to know them, you'll learn that stuff. But just understand that our philosophy at Summit Insight, working together and working with you, is we like to identify 5 departments and 2 agencies within those departments that buy what you sell, so we can get hyper focused. And some, even our most successful clients, go after 2 or 3 departments and then 3 agencies within. They get really, really narrow, and that's the way to go. You do not want to go out there in a shotgun approach, just sprinkling your information everywhere. You want to pinpoint where you should be spending your time. And it might only be a handful of people that buy what you sell. Okay? And truth number 7, relationships matter. Relationships matter so much. And now I'm going to give you a little story of something that just happened to me within the last year. So I have a client of mine who has a contract vehicle with the VA. Big contract vehicle. They are selling capital equipment to the VA that's over $500,000. Okay, so the data showed us that this equipment was being bought on a local level. So we thought, you got to get out there, develop relationships, et cetera, which we did. And one doctor said, I want this a piece of equipment. Okay. But on the internal part of their system, I told you they had a contract vehicle, remember? They had something in their hand that they could easily do business with them. But when they looked up this company's name inside their internal system, our information wasn't there. They couldn't find us in their system, even though we had a contract vehicle. So we had to get several people involved to get that part fixed. And the minute that part got fixed, everything's been flowing really quickly. And we had to have the doctor, we had to have somebody that's actually installing this big piece of equipment, kick and scream and ask for the equipment. They have a way they receive bids that are not on SAM through this contract vehicle. They have an internal system. So we had to be invited to that. We had to be taught and trained how to use that system. So there were probably 5 or 6 people inside the VA helping us submit our bid so that the doctor could get what he wanted.
Eileen, this takes us to exactly the principle that we talk to our clients about players and layers. So break it out for us just a little bit, would you?
Yes, absolutely. So the question is, who's my buyer? You could have people within contracting who are the people that are managing the actual purchase itself. They make a decision on whether or not it's a set aside. They make a decision on what contract vehicle they're using. So there's someone in this, that the people that are making sure that fair and open competition occurs, because that's what the federal acquisition regulation requires them to do. So the contracting shop is tasked to follow the federal acquisition regulation.
And they have the legal authority that the President of the United States does not have, the legal authority to bind the government of the United States to your company to perform a contract and provide services or products. That's the only layer, the only set of players who has that authority, no matter who else you're talking to.
Right. And you can talk to them sometimes, and you can't talk to them sometimes. So you can't talk to them when a bid is on the street. You have to submit all your questions in writing because they have to follow the rules. But if one of their customers on the inside, like a doctor, needs something, they're going to find a way to expedite it. If they have an end user who wants something, they're going to expedite it. There's the small business specialist that's inside the agency that's trying to meet their statutory goals that the SBA has set upon them, okay? They need to do so much for small, so much for woman-owned, so much for 8A, so much for service disabled vet, right? Hub zone, disadvantaged, veteran-owned, right? Native American, Alaskan, and Hawaiian. They have to show the SBA that they're considering small, but they are not your buyers, and they're not the people that are going to point us or get us in with the critical, most important person, the end user, who wants us. So the end user could be a facility manager if you're selling to facilities, right? Or someone in engineering or installation support. An end user, if you're selling staffing, it would be recruiting and HR or human capital, right? If it's IT, you're going to be going to the CIO, you're going to go to the chief security officer, you're going to go to, if someone's caring about database management, maybe it's records management, there might be some level of that. The end user, the person you're working side by side with to make a project successful. The end user cannot sign the contract, but believe me, they're in the evaluation committee voting for you or against you. That's why those end users are so powerful to us, is we want them to want us and to be advocating for us behind those closed doors, okay? Now, we also have primes that are already working there, that already have these contract vehicles set up and these relationships set up, but there's a game behind that too. We do not want to be the vendor, the subcontractor that goes to these primes, these large primes saying, give me business, give me business. No, no, no. What we want you to do is develop a relationship with the end user who wants you and says, listen, you know what's going to make it easy for me to choose you? If you can team with this large prime that we already have a contract vehicle with, can you go talk to them and I'll talk to them too? And you walk up to that prime and say, Joe had asked for me. Oh yeah, I have a piece of business. Can I borrow your bridge? Can I come in? They're going to go walk right in. A different conversation. When you have a piece of business in hand, bringing it to them, to those primes, it's a totally different conversation than gimme, gimme, gimme. I'm a poor woman-owned business. Please help me. No. You want to show them that this relationship is going to be based on deals I'm uncovering and I'm bringing to you, and you're just making it easy because you have this contract vehicle set up. So just a little bit of relationship players at all the layers, as Judy calls them. And of course, we have the stakeholder at the base or agency. This is the base commander, regional director, appointee by the president. They're not really involved in the project. They care about mission of the agency. And the other thing they care about is not on my watch. So goodness gracious, not on my watch. I don't want to have a cybersecurity breach. Goodness gracious, not on my watch. I don't want anybody killed on my watch. I don't want the facility to be broken into. I don't want the base to be attacked. I don't want anybody to get hurt. And I don't want a bunch of news articles written about me. I'd like to retire comfortably, please. So stakeholders are usually working on the mission of the agency, but we call them stakeholders because who do the taxpayers go after when something goes wrong at that base or agency? They go straight to the top and they want that person to be, you know, called out, fired, tarred and feathered, and humiliated. So that's why they're called stakeholders. Like a burned at the stake if things don't go right. End users don't lose their job. They just get pigeonholed into a position that they can't get out of if stuff goes wrong. So these are some of the players at the different layers. These relationships really do matter. But I also just want to throw out there that, you know, you're not going to be left alone like this kid in this cute little, I love this, Judy, I love this image, this little kid on the roller coaster. We're not going to let you go through scary times like this. There are experts available that can train you, that can do data analysis for you, that can help set you up and point you in the right direction to the right agencies as soon as possible. These, you know, a lot of people will say to people like Judy and I, well, why aren't you selling to the feds? You know, well, you know all the secrets. Aren't you going to be a multimillionaire? This is our thing, you know? This is our practice. This is our love. We love riding the roller coaster with our clients for the first time. We love going through the ups and downs and the inside out and backwards. And we love discovering new marketplaces for people. This is our thing. So we like to share the secret sauce with you. So just to give you the idea that if and when you choose for help, look for people that have lots of experience, that aren't giving you ridiculous promises, that are basing information that they're giving to you based on past contract data. Let the data drive your next activities selling to the feds. Don't let just somebody on YouTube tell you how it's done because that's the way they did it. It might be totally different in your business. So if someone says to you, oh, you have to have a GSA schedule, that's not necessarily true for many companies. So let's let the data drive your activities. And if you choose an expert that's really fun to be with, that's been there, done that, and loves the ride. So let me just send it over back to Judy here and let you take it from here.
Thanks, Eileen. Yeah, pay attention to the experience you have when you are in the courtship stage of thinking about who you're going to hire to help. If you're not having a great experience on the date, getting married doesn't usually make it better. All right, so pay attention, check references, find out what success has the person you're considering working with had in working with companies in industries like yours, working with prospects or federal buyers and agencies like the ones you're thinking your best prospects are in. Ask for references, call those references. If you don't call their references, buyer beware. Now, I want to ask you to drop in the chat or the Q&A, what have you heard that resonates with you? What have you learned that's been valuable? Sharing that with others helps other people go, oh yeah. And it's, again, one of the advanced learning techniques that we use in all of our program. So please drop that in the chat. In the meantime, I'm going to summarize and highlight some resources for you. We've covered a lot. We talked about the myths and stark realities of federal contracting. We talked about the things nobody really tells you about incumbents and the risk of you being an incumbent and getting blindsided, ways to think about that realistically. We really just began to scrape the surface of what it means to do your homework, and some highlights of things that winners think about, what they're investing for success, what's a good investment and what might not be. So we're going to have some resources for you, including, of course, the recording of this session. You're going to get an email that has the link to that and the other things. So a note about getting expert help then. First, if you are looking for a quick compendium, my book, Government Contracts Made Easier, and the companion workbook is on Amazon. Thousands of companies have found it helpful. I've even used it as a basis for training Apex Accelerator teams. So if you haven't got the book and the workbook, I don't make lots of money on books, but if I can't be at your elbow unpacking my head for you, this is the next best thing. All right, next up, Summit Insight are specialists in federal business growth. We help companies tackle the #1 problem, getting in front of the right people sooner. There are 3 keys to success. The first is focus. The second is human connection with the players at all the layers. The third is consistency. And we have programs that address all 3 of those. Focus is something we are able to provide our companies who want a federal marketing strategy workshop. You can find details about all 3 of these programs on my website. This is a compact 3-hour half day, and you'll come away with knowing who buys what you do, how they buy, how much they buy, who they're buying from, good strategies for partner connections, and answers to those really wake up in the middle of the night. Do I need a contract vehicle? Do I need a GSA schedule? You'll be able to make those decisions with confidence in a matter of hours. Federal Business Intensive and Mentorship are our more in-depth programs. And that means that you're able to get the calls done and have tools, skills, a plan that'll take you out for the next 2 years or even longer. Details of all of those are on our website. We've got a quick comparison chart, and you'll get those in the details in a handout that will be attached to your follow-up email. So take a look, see whether or not any of those interests you. If you want to explore whether we're a fit to work together, book a federal business breakthrough call. 30 minutes, it's free, and I promise you, you'll come away with at least 3 ideas you can use right away, and I hope a whole lot more. bonuses for you. First, 3 steps to winning government contracts. An article that I wrote was published in the National Contract Management Association's Contract Magazine, and the link to it is here, and you'll also find the content on a blog right on my website. Check it out. It talks about the combination of our players and layers methodology and how goals, milestones, and micro engagement combine with that to accelerate your success in federal human connection that's essential to winning the work. Attendee bonus number 2, start building great relationships with our GovCon personas guide. Get inside the heads and the workspace of the players at all 5 layers. Start to think about what to do, what to say, and what to ask to build relationships. These are free resources. Go grab them and start using them today. So here's what's next. We're going to send out a survey right after our session. Please respond to the survey. Let us know what your other questions are. Book a call on the link that you've seen and watch for the follow-up email that includes the resource links and the recording. If you have linger time, we'll turn off the recording so you can ask your questions and we'll help you solve them in real time or with follow-up. Finally, if you've been in the market, you know that you need more bandwidth to help you make calls. Get those 50 or 60 hours of calling done to get those appointments on your calendar. Nobody does it all. I want to encourage you to connect with our moderator and my business partner, Leah Edwards, the founder of Transcendent Marketing. She's done Smile and Dial, contact relationship management, digital call campaigns for some of the largest, best known names in the federal market. And she has professional call agents who work with her. And so you can see some of her services here. If you want to contact Leah, please do. Let her tell you more about what success takes and consider whether or not she and her team might be a fit for working with you. I want to thank Eileen for sharing so much practical advice, great ideas and tips with us today. Eileen, it is such a joy to work with you on our webinar series and also every day with our clients. You are smart and generous, and there isn't anybody who doesn't come away just feeling encouraged from a conversation with you and the opportunity to just be in your orbit. I want to encourage all of you who are here to think about how you can create that experience with the people that you want to get in front of and build relationships with. And so with that, I want to invite you to be with us on this journey to have a life you love, in a business you love, serving a country you love. That's the ultimate goal from all of our work together. And visit Summit Insight, check out our resources, consider booking a call or a conversation. We're planning our next webinar series. We hope to see you on those real soon. So share this link, share the ideas, and get in touch with us. I'm going to ask Leah to wrap up our recording right now, and then we'll move to private Q&A. So thank you so much for joining us.